Dan with Guardian Mold Prevent here. I want to take a look with you at an attic space located in Naperville, Illinois that has many deficiencies in it that have actually led to mold growth on the underside of the roof sheathing. Now, this homeowner's house has been flagged by a potential buyer's home inspector. They noted on the report that there's possible mold growth in the attic space, and so they're left in a position to determine what to do in order to get their house sold. As you can see, the underside of the plywood has got quite a bit of mold growth on it. And we're going to kind of walk through a few reasons why this mold growth has developed. An attic space is meant to be conditioned by the outdoor environment. So any warm air from your house that gets up in the attic space will contribute to condensation and then ultimately mold growth. Now we're looking at the top of the insulation here, and you can see that there's a can light that's been installed, but there's no insulation around the can light, and quite frankly, the amount of insulation that's in the attic is just not thick enough. It's inadequate. So what happens is that air is able to make its way up through those penetrations in your ceiling, and it puts more warm air into the attic space when the ice-cold roofing members are present in the winter. And so warm air with cold roofing members equals condensation and then mold. Now they do have a power attic fan, as you can see here in this attic. It's only run by a thermostat. It doesn't have a humidistat switch on it. So when the temperature gets to a certain temp, that fan kicks on. But it should also have a switch on it for when the humidity level gets to a certain temperature, the fan will kick on and pull all the moisture out and pull in cold air to replace it, and naturally cold air will dry out a space. The other things that can contribute to warm air getting into an attic space are bathroom exhaust fans. This homeowner actually had 2 of their fans replaced because they just were old, and when they did that, they realized that they were not exhausted out. They were just blowing into the attic. Now you can see a contractor has put a tin line in and tied it out through the roof, and we'll look at a second one here very shortly. And this is, quite frankly, better than what they had, and probably better than what most homes in the Chicago market have going on in them because of poor construction practices over the years. But these lines really could have been insulated lines to prevent any additional heat loss from being conducted through the line itself into the attic space, and that would have helped prevent any additional moisture from developing because the lines are radiating or conducting heat. The key to an attic space staying dry and ultimately mold-free is to have the right amount of insulation, the right amount of lower ventilation, the right amount of upper ventilation, and have them all working in harmony so that you don't end up with condensation. Now I want to look at this diagram. You're going to see at the top of the ceiling there's meant to be an insulation barrier. That's meant to keep the house heat down and out so that it's not conditioning your attic environment. And then you'll notice at the overhangs that there are lower vents that allow cold air to come up into the attic space during the winter. And then there's upper ventilation that draws that warm air out and allows for the cold air to be supplied to the attic. When the lower ventilation is blocked with insulation, when there's not enough lower ventilation, you're not getting any cold air drawn up through the attic. So in this home, you've seen the power attic fan. The lower vents on this house are not working properly, so that attic fan is actually drawing air from the path of least resistance, and in this home it was through all the light fixtures in the ceiling. Now on the outside you can see that there's some what they call micro venting in the soffits. There's slits, very small slits that have been cut into the soffits, and those are meant to supply that cold air we talked about at the lower portions of the roof. The problem with this roof is that when the contractor installed these soffits over the old wooden soffits, they did not cut the wood out, which is a very common practice, lazy but common. And so these are the reasons why this attic space has got mold growth.